Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gonna teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington's out on assignment, but we believe we'll have a good show for you today. We have a great interview coming in with several individuals that are going to break down the framework of conference and what does it look like when you're talking about leadership and managing that process of a conference. So stick with us. I think it'll be interesting, a new perspective that you probably wouldn't see. We'll have a guest of panelists to really walk us through this process to let you know what that looks like. Welcome to episode 298 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports. From institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, as we like to call it, HBCU sports pedagogy. We're going to take you to class today, take you to school, as they say, with my co-host, Charles Bishop, filming from our home studio and sending a signal live to KCOA 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Fame, I should say, Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. With that being said, Professor Bishop, how you doing today?
Doing well. We had a nice little kickoff to the season, Dr. Field. We talked about it this past Sunday, but we kind of broke things down, and now we are into the full swing of things as week one is upon us this upcoming weekend. So looking forward to chopping it up, talking about a lot of football.
Yeah, that's really good, and I'm glad that you put out there. So that's a reminder for those that didn't realize they joined us this past Sunday that we're coming back with our fall edition of the third show on Sunday. We might even sneak a special one in on Monday since you had an extra game. We'll talk with Charles. He'll be on the schedule, on the road doing the pregame show, but we might sneak him in on a phone call or two, see if we get a couple of hidden tidbits to see what's going down in Miami. That's if he doesn't have his toe in the water on the beach. He says he's going to be working, but I know this gentleman here, especially now that he's got a little sprout, by himself. He took off some pads. He got to take his shirt off.
Hey, I got the beach body. Working on the beach body, so
Oh man, you too much. Shout out to all our listeners out there. Appreciate you all always coming in and showing us love. Lonnie Shaw, Chad Cooper, Karen Griffin, Belinda Johnson, LaRon Waters, Anthony Watson, Belinda Johnson, Lennon Lowe is in the house as always. Appreciate you for coming a true regular. President of FAMU. Oh man, yeah, it's a little different there. It's a little different down there. Chuck Hunt, a lot going on down there. Chad Cooper, which SWAC school will improve this season, but it won't be reflected in the wins and the losses. Ooh, that's a good one. I have to study that. I might say, Pine Bluff, I think, will be much improved. I can see that. Everybody else, I think, may see improvement. Obviously, Alabama State got a head start. They look like they should be improved, but you won't necessarily see by the number of wins, but they're in a good position. Those are some of the ones that come to mind. But with that being said, Charles, let me let you get in some news of the day as folks are dropping it. Chuck Hunt is going to always drop that news to get the discussion started for the lab listeners out there. Carl Edmond Jalen Riley, Jimmy Wilson is in the house, Donald Johnson. With that being said, Charles, what's on your mind?
Yeah, well, let's start off with this. Put a smile on my face. Is former Florida A&M safety Marquise Bell. He made Dallas Cowboys 53-man roster. So shout out to Marquise Bell and Florida A&M football. You know, they're producing some ball players that are making it to the NFL. So shout out to Marquise Bell for making it on the Cowboys 53-man roster. So that's huge in terms of that HBCU representation that we get a chance to see on the NFL level.
Cool, great point. He did it the hard way too, coming in as a free agent, but he got it done, get to live his dreams, continue to have the success he's had in preseason. He should be in great shape. What else you got out there, Charles?
Yeah, this is big news today. As the SWAC sent this out today, the SWAC and the Philadelphia Phillies, they have formed a partnership to teach students sports analytics. So the Philadelphia Phillies and the SWAC announced a partnership on today, which will give students attending its 12-member schools a chance to learn sports analytics. The Phillies and the SWAC Analytics Mentorship Program will give students the opportunity to gain valuable insight and experience in the field of sports analytics. So this was a statement here from John Tobias, who is founder of Strength in Numbers. He said sports analytics industry is booming. However, less than 10% of its employees are minorities and women. Having a program like this will grow and encourage a more diverse workforce for years to come. So huge news coming today from Major League Baseball organization, Philadelphia Phillies, and the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Great point. You know, I got excited about the analytics, sports analytics. That is extremely important to see the conference been talking about making those moves. We've added a couple of courses here at Texas Southern University. And so it's good to see that the conference is put together a partnership with the Phillies that's going to give some folks some really great experience of what that looks like. Talking about the SWAC, you also had the news with the commissioner, Dr. Charles McCullen. Contract extension was provided. Southwestern Athletic Council of Presidents chancellors have voted unanimously on a 3-year contract extension for the SWAC commissioner, Dr. Charles McClelland, that will run him through 2018 in the academic year. Charles was named the 6th commissioner of the SWAC during the summer of 2018. Under his watch, the league's positioned itself at the forefront of conference expansion with additions of Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman, bringing the league membership to 12 institutions. In the fall of 22, the SWAC signed the largest media rights agreement in history of HBCU athletics with the league's partnership with Allen Media Group, A&G. With the new agreement, SWAC sporting events will be readily available to 60% of U.S. television households and 70% of African-American households. Wow. Advancing the league's corporation partnership has been another significant achievement for McCullen. During his time leading the conference, the league has vastly expanded the corporate partnership portfolio with the addition of several Fortune 500 companies. So it continues to grow. Big announcement from the SWAC in terms of Dr. Charles McCullen. Any thoughts on that, Charles?
Huge. I mean, when you take a look at what Dr. McClelland has done since taking over Southwestern Athletic Conference, it seemed like a foregone conclusion that the SWAC presidents would extend his contract. But you named some of the things that he has done in terms of advancing league's corporate partnerships. That's a significant achievement. Largest media rights agreement in the history of HBCU athletics with the league's partnership with Allen Media Group. You go on. And then the thing that really stands out for me is his visibility. You see him consistently at the events throughout the league, and he's always accessible, comes on to our program, comes on various shows in regards to promoting the SWAC and HBCU culture in general. So you're always very appreciative of that.
Yeah, I like what Jimmy says, though. I'm going to have to make sure I share this with Charles. Jimmy said he should buy lunch when we get in the next meeting. I'm going to do one more thing, and then we're going to get to the break so we can bring our guests in, have a chance to really chat with them. Excited about this interview coming up. I did want to make sure that I mentioned Florida A&M, a lot going on down there, and the story continues to evolve. So I think we're learning so much. There's only so much you can talk about this. Is the Florida A&M players challenge the president on commitment to football from Tallahassee Democrat. FAMU football players expressed their frustration Monday in a 5-page, I think it was actually 7-page letter signed by several players, total of 89 players. And really what this in a long way talks about is, as you're in these leadership positions, how important communication is. And it doesn't matter in terms of what level, and you think you're communicating with people, but it becomes extremely important of what that looks like, whether it's from a coaching perspective, athletic director, president, board chair, all these different areas, commissioners, what you have it. It just is important in terms about communication on so many different levels. And it's a tough situation for all involved. We'll continue to watch it, obviously, sad in many different ways. But let's go into our first break so we can get into our interview and get a different perspective of what it means to understand conference and the leadership and management of a said conference. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports
Tell everybody
Network.
they can follow their dreams.
Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody.
Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go, why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like really loves.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
Compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We have esteemed guests with us today. We have MEAC Commissioner Sonja Stills, Delaware State Athletic Director, better known as the AD, Alecia Shields-Gadson. We have Norfolk State Faculty Athletic Representative. That's the FAR for those that haven't used that terminology. In the business, they often use that term as you see it in the framework there. And that is Dr. Carray Banks, Jr. of Norfolk State University. I'm really excited about this opportunity because this is one of the first times that we will be able to give our listeners a chance to really understand athletics from the commissioner's office, but how you tie so many things together. So before we get started and get in maybe some of the serious dialogue, you know how we have to do. We like to have a little fun and stuff like that. So I'm gonna mess with Dr. Carray Banks as he was down there in the Dallas greater DFW area, rooting on the Norfolk State Spartans as they won the MEAC basketball tournament on the men's side last year. I'm walking through, you know, covering Texas Southern University because they won from the SWAC, right? And the gentleman runs over there, Dr. Cavil, and he waves, and he just smiles and he looks at me and he acts like he wants some. And I say, well, okay. So I look at on the schedule this year, and Chris Paul, to his credit, that he's having his HBCU tournament in Las Vegas, but I just wanted to let you know that we've had the head-to-head matchup. Yeah. You all won in Norfolk, we won in Houston. So I was like, this is a chance to kind of set the record straight for the MEAC or SWAC, Norfolk State, right? Texas Southern University. And the brilliant people out there in this tournament, we're not playing each other. I was like, how did So there's 4 teams, as you all know. It's Hampton, Norfolk State, Texas Southern, as well as North Carolina A&T. Both teams, Norfolk and Texas Southern, will rotate and play the 2 days. They'll play North Carolina A&T and Hampton. I was like, what?
I think we're just spreading the pain to everybody else.
All right. I was gonna say they let you off the hook this year.
Coach
have to buy lunch now.
Coach Jones has done a wonderful job at Norfolk State University. No, he's won back-to-back championships for us, and he's represented very well in the NCAA tournament. He's represented well in postseason tournaments. He's gone to postseason tournament play every year that he's been a part of the Spartan family as our head coach. So we're pretty happy about the success he's having and fostering, and more importantly, the success of the careers and professional careers that the young men are assuming after they leave Norfolk State. So I look forward to that event. I think it did very well in terms of bringing the HBCU brand of basketball to the West Coast and to the lower Midwest. And I think we'll see more strides and more gains, more interest for people interested in coming and attending our institutions.
Thank you, Dr. Banks. You see that Commissioner Stills and Shields-Gadson. You see how on point he is.
Yeah. I can just get off the call right now.
Yeah. So, and seriously, last we wanted to discuss the framework of college athletics from a conference office perspective on the collective. For those that may not be aware, not only is a campus administrator led by the president's chancellors of the institution, that is similarly the case for a conference athletic perspective with presidents and chancellors of conference member institutions, providing a governance process from the commissioner that provides the leadership of the conference or said conference. However, this structure also includes athletic directors, senior women administrators, faculty athletic representatives, compliance individuals, championship events coordinators, NCAA staff that you have to coordinate with, and last but not least, college athletes, to name some involved in this ecosystem. So I really wanted to get a little framework to talk about what that looks like and why that is important. Most recently, the conference had a new strategic plan. And so starting with you, Commissioner Stills, why was it important to create a new strategic plan at this time?
It was very important. You know, when I became the commissioner, you know, it's important that my vision is a shared vision. And so putting together the committee headed by Dr. Carray Banks was very important, that we included, you know, the athletic directors, senior women administrators, the FARs, like you said, the compliance, the head football coaches of non and revenue sports and student athletes to get their feedback on where the conference should go. And it's very important that we go there together. I can, you know, have my own vision of where I think it should go, but we have to go there together. So we have to be able to put together the plan of where the conference should be together, basically.
Yes. Michelle, as you said, yes, I want to follow up with you, if you would. What role, in terms of understanding that importance that the commissioner talked about, what role were you able to play in this development of the strategic plan?
Well, my role, having been in the conference many years, my role was integral in coming in as a historical perspective. So, you know, you look at the strong, rich history of the MEAC. I was able to bring a lot of that historical perspective that really kept us on track and allowed us to follow the vision that the commissioner has set for us. As she said, you know, I view this as a journey, and we're on a ship, and this ship there are many components of it. So while she's the captain and she's guiding us, all of us have a role to play so that we can move in a direction and take this journey together. So, my role is just to find ways to support the vision and just ensure that all of us are moving together.
Thank you for that. Dr. Banks, when you talk about this vision and being the captain on the ship, what is the role of the faculty athletic representative? In the institution, when you think about a faculty member, you usually think about a professor teaching a class, grading some papers, doing research. What in the world has the faculty member involved in athletics?
Well,
for those that may not be familiar with that. Sorry.
I have a full load of classes. Not there. And but I fully support.
They wouldn't give you a release?
Man, I fully support what we're doing within our conference as well as within the NCAA. As you know, of me over the years, we've had a great relationship, a lot of passion about excelling as an individual institution, an individual conference, and then as a joint group of HBCU institutions. So it's kind of natural for me to just go into something and whatever it is, try to make it better. My participation, though, as the chair, I was invited to be the chair by both the commissioner and her consulting team, in part because of my time and history served with the conference, my experience on a number of committees within the conference over the years, and well as some background and relationships and activities at the national level. So I was approached and asked if we would start a process to review and update the strategic plan. So we began back in February with a SWOT analysis. And that SWOT analysis brought members of our institutions to a number of Zoom calls. We talked about our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, what things are external threats for our conference to flourish. And we took a very good discussion from our coaches, from our student athletes, from each of the administrative levels within the conference to decide on what's important and what should we have as part of the breastplate that shields us from, the slings and arrows of those external to the conference. And as a result of that, multiple meetings of the minds, and then we began and moved directly into the long-range strategic and long-range plan, which I chaired again as well. That was great because we had support from each group, and even some of our football coaches, they came in and they chimed in and made it clear about their position as the bread basket of as most head coaches would do. But then we had things that we changed and we thought that were important. And when we received input that the student athletes said, we feel this is important for our conference. This is the recognition we want. And here are the types of things we think should be made available to us. We made those adjustments, those changes, received those recommendations, and made those items a part of the criteria, which we expect everyone to follow.
Well, we certainly see at this time, and I'm about to let you jump in here, Charles. We see at this time in the football season and some things that are out there in terms of the news, how important football can be at this time. But I know you said national. When you say national, are you referring to the NCAA in terms of committees that you have served on?
Well, yeah, I have been blessed to be nominated by my committee, by my conference, and I've served on the Committee of Academics. I've served on the Academic Working Group, Legislation Committee for Division I, stood in for various board of directors meetings for our institution, and served on quite a few of the legislative proposals that have gone out from 2-4 transferred, NIL, drug policy and testing, a whole host of them, a little bit too much to mention. But I'm most proud of my work. If I were to talk about one in specific, I'm most proud of my influence and work with the AASP, the Accelerating Academic Success Program. And that is where we're able to impact all limited resource institutions, including HBCUs, in accessing funding to improve their program, the operations, its efficiency, as well as the student experience.
Which is also a part of the APR. When you talk about there's a connection with that, is that correct?
It does. It allows for.
I know it's a smaller part of it, but
yeah, it allows for institutions to conduct a self-assessment of their athletics program, and then in identifying those deficiencies, apply to the NCAA for a multi-year grant. That grant is extended up to 4 years, up to $100,000. I mean, $1 million, $990 million, $990,000 over a 4-year period, so they can address those deficiencies. And we've had institutions, both in the MEAC and SWAC in particular, as we're talking about this conversation, that have done everything from add technology in their labs, technology on their buses that they travel with. We've had institutions that added conference compliance personnel and staffing in their offices. We've added academic tutoring facilities on our campuses. We've added lounges, and we've said everywhere from Tennessee State to FAMU to Norfolk State to Dell State and institutions all over the country. We've really done a great job in assisting them.
Yeah.
Dr. Banks, you're not right. He get a little smirk when he said compliance. I'm not going there with you. I'm not going there with you. Yeah. This is a nice show. We don't do that. Commissioner Stills, I did want to get back to you and really get into meats in terms of president's chancellors surrounding the creation of a strategic leadership plan in that perspective, as you call it, SLRP. How is this created, and who's involved in the creation of this?
So, when we had teams leave the league, one of the things that the presidents and chancellors, they're, is extraordinary counsel because they're very engaged. And so they wanted us to really take a look at where we need to be as a league and put together this strategic and long range plan. Now we've had one, and we created that back in 2005, I believe, 2005, 2008. So it was really time for us to really look at where we are currently, and especially in the Division I transformation landscape, and how we're going to adapt to that. So, the presidents and chancellors really took a look at the work that was done by the committee, and with unanimously, I think they didn't have really, Dr. Banks, any dissent in what was put forward because it was so detailed. It had action items. It had accountability throughout the plan itself. So, this is very important that this plan not only is a conference plan, but it also is important that the institutions play a part in executing the plan. It's not just a MEAC conference office plan, but it's a conference plan that is comprised of the member institutions. And in order for us to strengthen the foundation of our 8 member institutions, it's important that we are all playing a part in executing the vision that we all share in as we move forward together. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, it did. It did. I want to get into a little fun part because people want to know about this conference expansion. I don't know how much you're going to tell me, but we start going to ask the question. I want to know, at least seriously, not necessarily who, but how. How do you go about that? What does that look like? What are you looking for? But we're going to tease that out a little bit. We're going to hand that other side, and I'm going to hand the mic over to Charles. We'll come back and ask some questions to Ms. Shields-Gadson in regards to what does it look like when you're talking about the length of this. And then we'll go back to you, Dr. Banks, and see if we can get you to be nice to everybody today. With that, we'll be right back after this break. Stick with us.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
The new GMC Sierra with hands-free driving offers the most advanced and luxurious pickup in its class. Yeah, it runs.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, trying to get down.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're having our interview as we talk about the MEAC strategic plan, and we have with us the MEAC Commissioner Sonja Stills, Delaware State Athletic Director Alecia Shields-Gadson, and Norfolk State Faculty Athletic Representative, better known as the FAR, Dr. Carray Banks. As we got into this, I promised I was going to share a little bit of the mic. I didn't hold it long enough. Please, Charles, jump in here.
Well, I wanted to, come in because you touched on one of those Dr. Cavil buzzwords, SWOT analysis. And if you've ever sat in Dr. Cavil's class, you will have to do many SWOT analysis. So, so I wanted to ask kind of the fan question in regards to that SWOT analysis. And Dr. Cavil brought it up in terms of conference expansion. Was conference expansion addressed within that strategic plan?
I'm going to start by saying yes, but I want the commissioner to take it over.
Yes.
It is yes, and double yes. And that is because we not only were focused on the opportunity to expand, but really what is the quality of that expansion.
Correct, yes.
And that's where I'm gonna let the commissioner kind of take over from there to talk about, what is a good fit, best fit, and her direction and activity so far.
Right. Yeah. And I've said several times on this show, we want to be methodical about the institutions that we pick. We want to make sure that they align with us, not only athletically, but academically. We want to make sure that, within the footprint, and if they're not in the footprint, how far do we want to extend? Because part of our Constitution and bylaws says that, we are east of the Mississippi River, and so are these only institutions that we're looking at. So we want to be very, very mindful of not just in a hurry to get numbers, but make sure that these institutions really going to align or going to help the conference. Now, whether that's going to help the conference as far as adding additional championships based on the sports that they're going to bring into the conference is very important. We don't want to just add institutions who have sports that's going to end up having to be in other conferences that don't really help us. So, we have to be very, very mindful and intentional about the institutions that we bring into the conference.
I guess when you look at those institutions that you are being methodical about, what are some of the bullet points that you look at with regard? Does university prestige come into play? What are some of those things that you would kind of hone in on with a particular institution?
Sure. I mean, if you listen to the blogs, we want to have football,
Of course.
Check that box,
Yeah.
but also know that, you know, our institutions, we have higher research institutions within the conference, you know, so we want to make sure that the institutions that we are bringing in are going to help with our academic profile. You know, our institutions are growing and expanding, and we want to make sure that the institutions that join us are aligned with that.
Yeah.
You know, are they going to align with us in what we're trying to do to improve our athletic programs, you know, whether that's through, you know, improving the sports, you know, through the connections that we have. That's very important, because what we don't want to do is bring in an institution that's not going to be sustainable as a Division I institution, especially if we are getting ready to find out, as the Division I transformation is going about, what those membership standards are going to be, because we don't know right now. So we want to make sure that when we do know those standards, that these institutions are going to align with us and be successful and be in there for the long haul.
Yes.
Might I add that we also have discussed an issue that some of the institutions did bring forth as they were looking to depart, and that is their commitment to travel. And so if you have institutions who say, because of the travel concerns for the multitude of teams and the cost itself is a barrier to them being an efficient member of the conference, then we place the value on that as well, in terms of voting, you know, for or not in favor of an institution joining us. So it matters, a number of things. APR, we have in the strategic plan where we have minimum scores or minimum benchmark, I should say, that we're asking all of us to support as a conference, and then at your individual institutions, because we do recognize that there are some unique differences in our institutions. Some are public, some private. So therefore, the dollars that are associated per student, it differs. The amount of student assistance fund, it differs. And so we have to make sure that we're managing our institutions. We require all of our institutions to have mental health programming available for all of our academic programs and athletes. Some of our institutions had done that already in terms of through their student services programs and offerings. Others have pursued that via the ASP grant and funds associated with developing, core mental health professionals for their student athletes.
I want to also add, any of us that have done strategic plans, we understand how comprehensive it has to be. And so a lot of times, you know, everyone thinks you just kind of rush in and make these immediate decisions. And all of us, just as the commissioner said, it has to be comprehensive, it's deliberate and intentional. So, you know, when you think about this process, a lot of times you'll have individuals and everyone, oh, well, just get that school or get that school. No, we have to make sure that it fits with our core values and that it's helping to move to the greater cause. And that's where, when you look at what the MEAC has been as a historically Black conference, a Division I conference, that's rich legacy there. And we want to maintain that. And so to maintain that, we got to do it right. And sometimes it doesn't seem like it moves as fast as everyone, but when we move and do it right, you'll see a great result. And that's what I think is important about this plan, because it's comprehensive, it is inclusive, and it allows us to not only, as you think about expansion, but how do we build us stronger? How do we ensure that those of us that are already in the conference, that's committed to the conference, is committed to that vision of ensuring that this legacy continues? So that's a big weight, and we got to get it right. So we'd rather take our time and do it right. And we feel very confident about our sustainability. And as you see, the MEAC is strong, and that's what this plan will ensure. So I'm very excited about it.
I have a question to follow up with that in regards to 8, the benefits. We've heard a lot of the negatives to 8, with, you know, obviously some of those are quite obvious in terms of what that looks like, but I wanted to get into some of the benefits. But before I did that, I want to say, Commissioner Stills, in terms of these blogs and these sites out there, I just want you to know that I do have a plan. I do have a plan for you. The perfect schools. I did all the matching. I've done all the analytics like Dr. Banks. I got it together. I promise. Just give me 5 minutes. I'll break it down. I've already called those presidents and chancellors that they're ready to sign up. So this is no problem. I can get this done. What they say for a short, nominal fee.
Where does the check go?
You know, that's when they always come to the athletic director for a check. But I wanted to ask you on a serious note in regards to, again, a lot of us heard about the negative sides. What are some of the benefits to having a said smaller conference? In this case, 8 members, 6 that are playing football. We see that with the Ivy League that refuses to expand for whatever reason. And they're branded themselves as extremely elite. And it's not to say that you're mimicking or copying that, or that's even a desire, but just so some people can see a case study where it has worked with a smaller league. Could you share with us some of the benefits of having 8 members in a conference?
Absolutely.
Versus what we see with a lot of the athletes?
Absolutely. I'll give you my 2 cents in it, and I would love for Shields-Gadson and Dr. Banks to jump in on this. But, you know, we have a more compressed footprint, you know, so it makes it easier for travel for our institutions. So you look at the budget on that side. We have a shared revenue. You know, what's good for one institution is good for all. So it's always been in the conference a shared revenue so that we all can move and improve. So that helps, you know, with 4 institutions leaving, that's just more money in the pot.
Yeah, it's me. When you have a cake and you cut it 12 ways,
Yes.
I'd rather cut it 8. That means I get a bigger slice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that
allows
us more opportunities to help improve and strengthen the 8-member institutions, you know, whether that's through improvements. Like recently, we just assisted the institutions with replay system, upgrading the replay system. So we're looking to do those type of things that we can do quickly or, you know, more efficiently with 8-member institutions. So, and that's just 2 things from where I see it. Alecia?
Yeah, I would add it definitely keeps us nimble, but you know what has my biggest pride has been the camaraderie. So as much as we compete against each other, when you think about certain sports where we'll see our fellow conference members, we're all in. We're cheering for them because it's the MEAC against the world, baby. So we all come together, and it's a sense of family, of reaching out and helping each other. And we've seen that across the board. So it's nothing for someone to get on a call and really work together. And that is truly a joy when we can be fierce competitors, but we still recognize how we can be family, how we can be cordial and move to the greater cause, which is our student athletes.
Right.
Great point. Dr. Banks, did you want to add any of that?
Yeah, I'll just add some support to what you've heard thus far. One example is that revenue distribution fund. As you know, when the NCAA signed an expanded financial agreement with ESPN associated with March Madness, and there was an increase of the overall budget from $900 million to a little over $1.2 billion. Those revenue funds that were considered additional dollars were going to be divided. And thankfully, I served at that time on the committee that had a say in how those funds will be committed. And we ultimately got agreement to have those funds as rewards to institutions for meeting certain academic cutoffs. And those cutoffs would work around what's your graduation rate, what's your retention rate, what your APR score. And so as a result, when that check comes to the institution, it is actually delivered to the conference, and the conference distributes those funds based on their bylaws. In our conference, we had a collective agreement where, you know, rising tide rises all boats. So we had profit sharing associated with that. So if you're an institution that met that standard, you receive 2 shares. If you're an institution that did not meet the standard, you still receive 1 share. And then we had another portion of that fund that was provided to the conference office to assist in ensuring stability for conference attendance for the membership, student athletes who work as SWACs, for them to go to national conferences committees, professional development training, small grants that the institutions can apply for where they have special needs on their campus. We can get those funds from the office. And the cool part about that is, on average, we were having 5 to 6 schools who were always meeting that standard in the conference. Well, we now have those same 5 to 6 schools meeting that standard, and they're still part of the conference. So now the dollars amount went up, virtually doing nothing in some respects. And Celebration Bowl is another example where we have conference revenue share with that as well. So by virtue of a decrease in 3 institutions, that 30% went to the other institutions that are in the conference. So the amount of revenue share is higher for us. Hosting of championships, being the size we are, we voted during the pandemic to adjust where we played our championships. And thankfully, Norfolk State University, located near and around our conference office, is a principal host for events for our conference for a 2-year span, which saved tremendous money because we own all our facilities. So therefore, we're able to accommodate the conference membership in saving money. The costs are fairly fixed because they know what it costs to come to Hampton Roads, and we have all major transportation options available to them. And so that savings right there was tremendous for the institutions because it was easy to budget what your expected finance is going to be. As a result of that, you see Norfolk State will be hosting for the next 2 years the NCAA Indoor Track and Field Championships, which is major here in Virginia Beach in association with Norfolk State University. And we have full support of our conference office with resources that will be allocated to ensure that we have a successful show. And again, this is history making because it's the first time this HBCU has hosted this level of championship for the Division I track and field indoors. Lastly,
hold on, we never let that slide. The first, there you go. Keep going, Dr. Banks.
Okay, lastly, I want to just say that we have a number of services that are advantaged for us in supporting our institutions being the size that we are. The size that we are, and that we have firm commitments from each of the presidents. They have said that both publicly, orally, as well as in writing, that they're committed to the sustainability of the conference. And so that's important because for the word that has been used so often, particularly within the SEC, is super conference. And, when you look at the playoff distribution, the playoff football distribution, our conference received the same amount as 5 other conferences in FCS football. And while those conferences may see themselves as super great or better, the distribution is the same. So the money matters. So if I'm getting the same 300,000 you're getting, then you're not necessarily more super than me. Then the next issue there is that we're able to take our funds but how efficient are we spending and supporting our championships? So that's why it's easy for us to bring in groups of our professionals and have workshops and one-on-one sessions at our conference headquarters, which the commissioner most recently had with each of the coaches for our football programs in the conference, which is all of them are saying, I've never done this with the conference commissioner. To be hosted and have this level of conversation, to see our facilities. We have a facility that is in the 6-7 figure range. It's paid for. our reporting of our funds for our conference, they have exceeded other conferences for the last 12 years. And you can just look at the IRS tax documents to see that. So there's a lot of stability we have that we rest on, in spite of the opportunities and challenges we have in assuming and acquiring some new members. And of course, we have associate members in certain sports as well who are supporting and undergirding some of our activities. Last thing I'll say is we want to make sure that there's serious conversations about the AQ, the automatic qualifier. You know, if you have a merging of conferences and you only have two that are historically Black in their majority in their membership, that AQ then reduces to one.
Right.
So now you have a loss in representation, a loss of exposure, a loss in revenues associated with having that one automatic qualifier in each sport, because MEAC represents on the top 5 programs, top 6 programs in the nation in women's bowling. Yes. We have marquee programs in track and field,
yes,
indoor and outdoor, men and women's side. We have Olympic athletes participating, both Olympic and Paralympic, that are from our conference. We have, you know, we're almost notorious in our basketball prowess that we have in the footprint and around the country and international overseas. Excellent baseball. We play people regardless of their conference, regardless of their big 5, little 5, the other 5 more. We gonna play them. And we gonna do what we do, and because we need that competition to improve our APR when we're looking at rankings. And our goal is to, and we have it in our strategic plan. And our goal is for us to be in the top 90% of all sports that we offer as championships in our conference.
That's why he's the ball.
Yes.
Exactly. Faculty athletic rep brought it. I think we'll close right there. Perfectly said in so many different ways. I will say, I really appreciate you taking out this time and sharing a different scope of what it means to look inside the athletic office from the commissioner's level, the entire conference in that perspective. So I think you provided all of us some great information of what that looks like. So I really appreciate all your time of providing that information of what that looks like. Hopefully we'll get a chance to come back, and as the plan continues to update and those things, and if you meet those metrics, please let us know, and we'll love to come back and chat a little more. I would like to put this out there, Commissioner Stills, whenever you can. We'd like to see some more crossover. Let's get some of these matchups, as you said, in basketball, men's and women's. Let's get some MEAC SWAC matchups, regular season. To see what that looks like. I know there's some house to it, but Banks just told on y'all. Y'all got some money.
Look, all I'm going to say is stay tuned.
Right.
Isn't it?
We're working on it.
Oh, good. So I know you have a great relationship with all the other commissioners in general, but specifically HBCU commissioners, along with Dr. Charles McCullen, the SWAC commissioner. So I would love to see that happen. So I'll put that out there just to dangle a little bit of something of where we can go. And let me know if I can be an assistance of doing that.
Thank you. You know, you've been a true friend of the and HBCUs in general.
Yes.
And just to appreciate just your style of media. And your opportunity to get the truth and ask us, you know, exactly what the heck is going on, and you know, kind of put to bed any assumptions and, you know, that's out there. And so I really appreciate that.
No problem. We really appreciate the opportunity to educate,
yes, indeed,
inform, and entertain. With that being said, we'll be back. You just heard it all from me. Commissioner Sonja Stills, Delaware State Athletic Director Alecia Shields-Gadson, and Norfolk State Faculty Athletic Representative Dr. Carray Banks. Thank you for your time. We'll be back after this quick break, and we're prepared to close the show.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Don't worry, Ma. We'll be there soon.
We? Is this the one?
Well, let's say I found the one who takes me to another level. Always stays calm under pressure. Most importantly, the one that helps me discover the coolest places.
This sounds wonderful.
Come outside, I'll introduce you.
You're here.
Definitely the one.
Introducing the all-new Nissan Frontier.
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplified Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplified Development Services.
Mobile banking from Truist actually works for you. It gives you simple, smart, personalized insights to keep you one step ahead. Because we think that's the kind of control you deserve over your money. When you start with care, you get a different kind of bank. Truist. Download the mobile app now.
It's like a loot machine. All around town, trying to get down.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. In the studio now is Professor Bishop, Professor Drew. You saw Dr. Carray, the faculty athletic representative. I was that close to being the FAR, and then the other side of life took over. And I was like, I'm not dedicating all this additional time. But I enjoy talking to Dr. Banks because we can vibe on that same academic level, as you can see. But I did want to say this before I asked you your final thoughts on what took place. One other thing that they didn't get able time to share, and part of that is just because of the limited part of the share. There's another way that you can measure being aggressive. And the measure of aggressive is how diverse your organization is. And obviously, we're talking about HBCUs. So part of that diversity, some people measure in terms of ethnicity, but another part of that oftentimes is measured in gender. When you have half of your conference led by women, you don't see that. You have obviously leadership in terms of presidents as well. You have women. The commissioner herself is a woman. So when you look at that gender representation, you talking about leading by example of what you say you want to provide opportunity to women, particularly Black women in terms of Black girl magic. You see it in the MEAC. So there's something to be said for that. And I think that's important. So I did want to make sure we didn't leave that on the table. As we gleaned about it a little bit in the break, I'm going to go to you first, AD Drew, and then I'm going to come to Charles, give him a chance to kind of close out with his thoughts. Drew, what were your thoughts in terms of what was said in terms of understanding more of the conference perspective? And you've done the research and we've had these talks. So you have a little head start than some folks, but even more so now. What are your thoughts about all that?
But, you know, I was sitting there and I wish I would have had a pen in my hand because, okay, that's the one point that I've taken out of this whole conversation. And then somebody else would talk. Then that's the one point that I wanted to take out of this whole conversation. And then the third person would come in. That's the one point that I wanted to take out of this whole conversation. So I guess my point is it's more complex than the average person may realize. And you know, three of us are privy having those relationships within the universities that we deal with, to understanding some of this stuff at a little bit of a deeper level. But even as still as deep as I may understand it, or you may understand it, Doc, or even you, Charles, you know, hearing it or hearing the reinforcement of the knowledge that you already know about the processes and considerations that these schools go through is amazing. You know, the fact that you had 5 institutions who were getting basically a reward for their academic prowess. Those 5 institutions are still in the conference. Those are the ones who did not leave. And for them continuing to do what they were already doing, they're getting more money now than they were 5 years ago, and didn't have to do anything different, because the pie, they get the biggest slice of the pie. We don't have as many people to serve, basically, if you're thinking about Thanksgiving dinner. So that was the one thing it is. So these 8 schools should be and looks to be in a better position financially. And this conservative growth by them, not just adding expanding for the sake of expansion just to keep up with the Joneses, it's actually looking like it's going to be a good long-term benefit for the MEAC. The thing is, we as MEAC fans have to be patient and let them go ahead and go through the process. It's not growing pains, it's going through the process, because at the right time, people are going to be asking the MEAC, can we join y'all? Instead of, hey, will you come join us?
Great point, great point. Charles, your final thought?
You know, Dr. Cavil, very succinctly, I think they continue to put to bed the rest that the MEAC is a dying conference. And I think that's the biggest point that I continuously take from talking to various representatives, Dr. Stills as well, Commissioner Stills as well, is they put a strategic plan in place that lets you know they're here. They're going to be here tomorrow. They're viable, and that's period, point blank.
No doubt about it. As Charles would say, and as you would end on it, great point, great point. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. I hope you enjoyed our guest today. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday. Thursday, we'll be back and we'll start talking about those key matchups. We'll really get inside of them. And it's a lot of great matchups this weekend. Some SIAC, CIAA matchups, a couple of rivalry matchups, a couple of conference matchups. And so it should be fascinating when you look at this. And that's both at the major division level and the mid-major level. There's some non-conference matchups between HBCUs and historically white colleges at the same level that should be intriguing. So we'll get deep and down into the details of what these matchups should look like. Some of the key players you should consider of what's going on in these matchups. So tune in to us Thursday as we take it back to the playing field. We look forward to discuss the latest in the news as well of what's taking place. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattaCavil. And as Charles said, you know, that's what can make this more interesting when you talk about the SWAC and MEAC rivalry. And that's what makes it fun, is when you, one, respect what's taking place, but also have the fun in regards to going back and forth in terms of these rivals. And I see a chat going on and those kind of things in terms of MEAC tooting their horn. If they don't toot it, who else will? That's what they're supposed to do. And you alluded to it in a lot of ways, Charles, in terms of saying, no, they're not dying in any form or fashion. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. That's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We'll talk with you soon, Charles.
Of course.
Drew.
Lecture.
Dismissed.
Holla.
Well, holla. Not bad, not bad. A little bit 5-0.